Hey, Twisted listeners, I'm Cindy.
And I'm Diva.
And this is Twisted Listeners, a podcast about murder
and bliss.
Does my mic, I forgot to ask, does my microphone sound weird? Because I'm in my kitchen.
Sounds okay. It's a little more like
Echoey?
you're in a cavernous space, but it's not echoey.
Okay, well, guys, if it sounds a little different, that's why, and I apologize. But, my kids got to go to bed, and I record in his room because it has the best internet, and this is second best. So if it's a little echoey, I'll try to talk a little more quietly. Maybe that'll keep the echoes.
I wasn't sure if you were just going to let him party to the, wee hours or something.
Nah, we're waking up early tomorrow, so he's got to get some sleep, so he's not a monster. Anyway, hi, everybody. This is part 2 of Black Widow Murders. Part 1 was pretty fun and exciting and interesting. Hopefully part 2 will, be just as fun. Do we have any news?
Ted Kaczynski died.
Oh yeah, Ted Kaczynski died. I posted about it on the Instagram.
True crime news. People seemed sad about it. Or were they just being sarcastic?
R.I.P. Uncle Ted.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was a joke thing or if people actually meant that.
I mean, I could see how he would be kind of like a hero in some weird contexts.
Yeah, maybe we should also do bombers at some point as a tribute.
A tribute
list.
Ted Kaczynski.
A send-off. Yeah. Tribute list.
That's fucked up. Maybe we could though.
Yeah.
Anyway, please rate, review, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Patreon, follow us on TikTok. Kay created a Discord. So if you guys want to get on the Discord, she's also going to start posting on our TikTok, which I'm really excited to see her do.
Oh, okay.
I think she'll be really good at that. She's super
fantastic.
Cute, and she always has nice makeup. So I think
perfect. Camera ready.
Much better than my old ass, my wrinkly face and my really stoic look when I'm talking.
People were mostly upset about your nose ring that one time. They were really bothered.
Do you have a silver booger? I'm like, can you be the 50th person to comment that exact same thing from your mom's basement? Jesus Christ. Whatever. Anyway, yeah, so that'll be really cool. She get the TikTok going again, and maybe that'll inspire me to do some more. And
exactly. Yeah, maybe.
It'll be good. So follow us on all that stuff. Everything is in it's on our website and it's on our Instagram. So you can find all that there. But aside from that, our lives are boring. So we'll just get to the shit. I want to tell you, if I can just talk shit, I'm not going to name the podcast, but I was listening to a new podcast and its name basically implies that they're not going to just jabber on and they're just going to talk about the cases. 25 minutes into a 40-minute podcast, they'd talked about the case for about 3 minutes and had continually gone off on tangents. And I was just like, this is I wasted my time. It was
we try to keep it under 5, I'd say.
I was listening the other day because I was like, God, we're kind of going on, and we started talking about the cases at 4 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yeah, we're not that bad. That's long for us. That's 5 minutes is that's long. It feels
really
long to us.
Yeah. That's why I started fucking checking.
Oh, plus anyway. we can also sprinkle in. I like podcasts that sprinkle in the side talk.
A little.
It's pepper it in.
Fine.
You don't need it all up front.
Pepper it in. I don't want it to be 15 minutes in the beginning and then 5 minutes every 5 minutes after that. You know what I mean?
And I have other podcasts that I like just to listen to them talk about random shit, but to me that's a separate genre.
And you also have to be a certain kind of person, and I'm fine knowing that I'm not that person. I am not the world's most engaging storyteller, and while there have definitely been interesting and weird things that have happened in my life, that's not why we're here. And I'm fine with that. So let's just talk, now that we've talked about how we're not going to do what we're doing, let's just do stories.
Yes, on that note, let's do it.
Yeah.
Do I go first this time?
This time you do.
Okay.
Indeed.
So mine is not as long, but it is dense. It is densely layered and packed.
Okay, yeah, mine's not that long either. So good cool. To know.
It's late, so that's good. Bip bop boop. Get out of here, go to bed. All right. And get ready because this is I'll just say this lady loves getting married.
Okay.
fast as she can, as often as she can. This is like a world record holder. So that's kind of why I picked this for that reason alone.
Okay.
So this is Jill Coit. She was born Jill Billio.
Wow.
She was
I like that. Billio.
Yeah. Billio.
Sounds like a cool like 50s nickname for a guy named William.
Well, it's like with a T, so I'm assuming it's not Billiot. I mean, because maybe it's because she's from New Orleans, so I'm assuming you might say it French style, right?
Yeah, I would make the O say its name and silence that T. Yeah.
But maybe it's Billiot. I don't know.
Who's to say?
Americans do tend to like
we do like to butcher shit. Yeah, exactly.
So Jill is originally from New Orleans, but she moves around a whole lot from very early on. So I'm not even gonna like pretend to keep track of every single move, but I'll try.
Okay.
One book I saw said she is Native American, but I could not for the life of me see that anywhere else or any like specific tribe or anything. So take that with a grain of salt. Maybe she is.
She could be.
Could be. Her background is fairly unremarkable. She's one of these rare few people in our cases who's like, her childhood was fine. Like nothing happened.
Right.
There's at least that we know of. There's no big indication of how she got to be this way.
Okay.
But at age 17 in 1961, when she's in high school, she drops out to marry an 18-year-old young man named Larry Enan. This is number one. I'm going to number them.
Okay.
They divorced a year later, and Jill goes back to finish her high school degree. She goes to college in Louisiana, where she meets a Stephen Moore, whom she very quickly marries. This is 1964. She has a son named Seth with him and separates from him a year later. So we're on 2. Okay. Whew. I'm like, I need to do a stretch to like get through all these marriages. Okay. So whilst partying in the city's French Quarter, Jill meets William Clark Coit Jr., who is apparently a super wealthy dude. She really likes those kinds of guys.
Of course.
So she marries him. She was still married to Stephen Moore, so keep that in mind. But then she marries William Coit Jr. She marries William Coit Jr., then later on files for divorce from Stephen Moore. So there's a lot of bigamy overlap happening here in this story. William Coit Jr. adopts her first son, and then they soon have 2 sons of their own. So even though they don't figure super prominently in the story, I think it is important to remember that throughout all of these subsequent events, there's 3 kids being dragged along.
Yeah, that's always, it's funny because in the Black Widow stories, like a lot of these stories, like the kids are almost like a footnote, which I feel terrible.
Yeah, it's wild too to be like,
there's also lots of kids.
How could there have been kids for this? Because there's so much moving, so much disruption.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're there. So they all move to Texas. She has a ton of affairs in this marriage, and William Coit very quickly figures things out. And he files for divorce in March 1972. So that's the end of number 3.
Okay.
But not quite, because just a few weeks later, William Coit is found murdered.
Ooh.
And he had been shot 3 times with a .22 caliber gun.
Ooh.
Even though investigators are like obviously very suspicious of Jill, the kind of estranged wife, they never put together enough of a case to charge her. And she's somehow able to evade questioning at all because she just immediately checks herself into a psychiatric hospital.
Oh, wow. So she just ducks out.
Yeah. She's like, oh, you can't talk to me. I'm not going to talk about it.
It's like when a cop's about to pull you over and you like pull into a parking spot and like go into a store. And it's like, come on. That's like such a, like, come on. Like, I mean, I've done that. Yeah. But it's like pretty clear what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Okay. Anyway.
So apparently at some point after this ruse works, she checks herself out and she moves her 3 sons and herself to California. Her first order of business in California is somehow persuading a 90-something-year-old elderly wealthy man to adopt her.
What the fuck? How old is she?
I think in this point, like probably in her 30s, maybe, or younger.
The fuck?
This plan of hers works. He does, and he quickly passes away. And I also wanted to put a big footnote in here and be like, was it of old age?
Yeah. Was it a heart problem?
Was it a fall? Question mark. Yeah.
Did he fall onto a bullet?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of details, but he passes away, whether through age or other means. and she immediately gets a massive payout from his estate.
Right, because she's his daughter now, somehow.
Yep. She then immediately finds husband number 4, Donald Charles Brody, divorces him 2 years later in 1975, and then moves back to Louisiana. She then, from afar, calls up Donald Brody, who's still back in California, fakes a pregnancy, says, "Hey, I'm pregnant with your child,"
What?
then like produces a fake birth certificate, which she shows to him. I guess she mails him a copy or something.
He's like, "Here's the baby."
Just a certificate, not a baby.
That's
just
fucking,
a certificate.
Right. Here's proof.
Like
a proof of purchase.
Yeah.
In the mail.
And she's able to get him to pay her child support.
At least, I mean, she didn't murder him, so that's kind of good.
No, but at some point later down the line, she just tells him casually that the baby died. So.
Oh, hey. Oh, yeah, the baby. Oh, it died.
Yeah, whoops. So that's gotta be
wild.
Probably still a mindfuck for poor Donald back there. He's like, what?
Yeah.
What the fuck? So that was just a little side scam that she does there on Donald.
Yeah.
Then in 1976, she marries number 5 husband, Louis DeRosa, who was actually her lawyer for like a minute when she was trying to not get charged with William Coit, which worked out.
So this guy likes to live dangerously.
Yeah, exactly. Like Casey Anthony and her lawyer, it's a whole thing.
Dude, the fuck.
So he's married to Louis DeRosa, number 5. During one of their many they were like on again, off again kind of thing. So during one of their separations in 1978, she marries and divorces a whole other guy, husband number 6, named Eldon Metzger, a whole time without divorcing Louis.
Okay.
There's like layers on layers on layers of bigamy. So in 1983, she, again, still married, she marries another guy named Carl Steely, husband number 7.
Wait, isn't that number 8? I'm
7.
losing track. That's 7? Okay.
She's still married to 5, but she married a 6 and now a 7.
She married and divorced a 6 and then married a 7?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Does number 5, but number 5's not in the picture. They just never like legally divorced?
Yes. No, she's still married to him. They're just separated.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she randomly goes to Haiti to divorce Carl Steely, number 7, but that literally doesn't count. I don't know why that's even a thing, that was possible.
Yeah, why would you? Okay. What else?
I don't know what that's about. Finally, in 1985, she gets around to actually divorcing husband number 5, Louis DeRosa. 1991, there's so many. I don't know how she makes it those 6 years without a marriage, but she does.
Yeah.
1991, she marries husband number 8, who's a wealthy guy named Jerry Boggs. And she tells him, after they kind of have a brief fling, a romance, that she's pregnant, and that's how she kind of baits him into getting married, right? But things about 7 months later fall apart, and he ultimately annuls their marriage when he finds out that she faked being pregnant.
Weird. Didn't see that coming.
Thankfully, she didn't go do that thing where she cut into a pregnant woman's belly to steal a baby, because this is kind of the setup to that. This is the setup to that, They always start by faking the pregnancy, right?
Yeah, and then they're like, "Fuck, I gotta find a baby. Like, where do we get a baby?"
Yeah, so thankfully she didn't do that. But he annuls the marriage when he finds out that, and then also that she was still married to Carl Steely, because that Haitian divorce did not count.
Oh, weird. That's so strange that out of country divorce didn't count.
Yeah, and Jerry Boggs is hella pissed. He actually files a $100,000 civil lawsuit against her, alleging bigamy and fraud, because she knew about still being married when she married him, and he wants to put a stop to this serial bigamist nonsense.
Yeah,
and get a payout as well for it.
Yeah,
for his troubles. So she goes off and marries husband number 9 immediately, promptly divorces him. I didn't even get his name because it doesn't matter.
Find these people.
Then she starts dating our guy number 10, who I'm not sure if she marries or not, named Michael Backus.
Okay.
So in 1993, just before the key hearing that would begin Jerry's civil suit against her, lawsuit against her, wouldn't you know it, Jerry is found murdered in his home in Colorado. He had been beaten with a shovel to death and shot 3 times with a .22.
I didn't mean to laugh at that, but I really didn't think the word was going to be shovel. That's not what I anticipated coming out of your mouth.
With a shovel.
Beaten with a shovel.
Mm-hmm.
That's so crazy.
And Jerry's brother actually grows suspicious when he doesn't show up at work because he was really reliable. He lives in Colorado, by the way, so she's also like kind of jet setting around to
That's
but
a lot just to kill somebody.
yeah, so Jerry's brother finds him and is like super obviously shook and horrified. Two suspicious individuals wearing wigs were reportedly witnessed near Jerry's home around the time of the murder. So that's like a thing that happens.
I do love a good wig murder, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, we did that for like when people were wearing disguises. We did that like around Halloween, and that was really fun.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Because of the dumb wigs and the masks and stuff. So right away, Jerry's brother goes to the cops and says, "Motherfucking Jill did this."
Yeah.
And Jill's son, Seth, if you remember him way back from husband number 2, tells the cops, "My mom fucking did this, 100%."
Yeah, like, trust me, she's my mom. I know her.
And he tells them on the night of the murder, she actually called him and had a strange message saying, "Hey, baby, it's over and it's messy." I like that sentence.
It's over and it's messy?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
The murder, I guess, was we beat someone with a shovel. It's quite messy.
Oh, I see. I don't know how I missed the point of that. Wow.
Yeah. And
disgusting.
Yeah, so she calls up her son, and Seth also says, like, the other reason I'm positive my mom did this is because she actually asked him to help cover it up. She pretty much says it, and Seth is like, "Fuck you, mom," but he tells the cops.
That's kind of crazy. She must have not, I mean, she thought her kid was loyal, huh?
Yeah, he was not. He's like, "My mom's fucking crazy."
Good for him.
So Jerry's family gets a PI to investigate, and they quickly find the 1 billion marriages, and layer on layer cake of bigamy.
Yeah, so much bigamy.
Yeah, the previous suspected murder of William Coit, so she's probably done this before. Very similarly murdered, right, with the same gun. And they also find a whole slew of just like financial frauds and scams, just like my first lady last time.
Yep.
Jill lying around the house. Jill had 15 aliases, materials related to 15 aliases, including 4 birth certificates and 3 different social security cards.
Wow. Which is weird because, like, why do you need all that? Like, it just seems like she's just really into like doing this shit, like scamming.
She loves scamming and she loves marrying.
Yeah, it's weird though. She like marries and divorces. Was there monetary gain for her in any of this?
I mean, she's there's definitely some marriages where she does not benefit from it at all. She's just doing it. But then there's some where she's trying to run a scam. But I think maybe they all start out as a prospective scam, and then sometimes she's like, nah.
Sometimes it just doesn't. It's like a bad business deal. Like she just like invested poorly.
Yeah.
That's such a twisted way to look at it.
I mean, she's definitely not like marrying because she loves love, Like,
no, God, no.
There's a scam going on here.
Right.
So a few months later, after Jerry's murder, and after a very brief and stupid attempt at fleeing to Mexico, Jill, along with boyfriend, I believe, I also saw husband in certain places. We made that was an assumption because she can't not get married.
Yeah, it's like probably a husband.
Boyfriend/husband Michael Backus are arrested, and they go to trial for the murder of Jerry Boggs, both of them. She claims as her alibi for Jerry's murder that she was camping with said boyfriend Michael, but based off the timeline she gives, so she gives a certain timeline, like I was here at this time and this day. The prosecutors are like, okay, but within this timeline at the time of the murder, you would fully fucking be able to commit the murder. So like, she kind of gives an alibi for like the wrong day entirely. And they're like,
right. They're like, that doesn't help you.
This doesn't help you. Yeah. You could just drive to Jerry's house. Right. Further evidence against her includes multiple people who said both she and Michael prior tried to solicit them to kill Jerry because of this lawsuit. And the testimony of her son Seth, obviously, who was like, my mom tried to get me help cover up and da-da-da-da. So that's pretty damning. They also present the suspicious as fuck contents that were found when they searched Jill's car, including the wigs.
Oh, the wigs. It's nice.
A stun gun, which they may or may not have used in the murder, and a map of Mexico. Okay. That's not going to be a getaway. I like the wigs and the map of Mexico together. That's like great.
That's a really, that paints a picture.
It's a road trip. That's a road trip that you're going on.
Clown car road
trip. Yeah, they are both sentenced to life in prison plus
Oh
48 years
shit.
for first degree murder, and then plus 48 years for conspiracy to commit murder. And that's just for
Wow.
Jerry. She was never charged with anything related to William Coit, but it's kind of just like assumed.
Yeah, that's kind of like they just kind of like threw it in. That's what the
But
48 years are really for.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's the saga of old fucking Jill Coit. She loves to get married
She
and then
does.
sometimes scam and sometimes murder those guys.
Yeah, I feel like she was like a gambler in a way.
Yeah,
Like take a gamble, like can I get something out of this marriage? And if not, she'd just divorce her real quick and then yeah.
yeah.
Well,
There she goes.
that is very interesting. What a dick. She didn't murder nearly as many of the men as I anticipated she was going to. So, a
No, only
little
only the two.
surprised.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I will kind of don't understand the first one because the second one there's an obvious financial thing, which doesn't want to lose that money. But the first one was just kind of like, oh, okay, for
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, takes all kinds, I guess. Okay, well, at least it's weird. Okay, I feel like your lady, like she's a little chaotic.
hmm
Like she's like just chaotic. There's not a lot of rhyme or reason. It's just very like frenetic. My lady's kind of similar. Um, I still don't know why she did it. I think we all, once you hear the story, you'll be like, we can all kind of agree that this was for money, but
hmm
like, not really? I don't know. I don't know. I'll get into it.
Okay.
I am doing Mary Elizabeth Wilson, otherwise known as the Merry Widow of Windy Nook.
Oh, that's a good name.
It is. I don't know why she was called the Merry Widow. Oh, yes, I do. Never mind. I just figured it out. Oh, I'm so dumb. I'm glad that's on the podcast so you all can understand how stupid I am when I tell the story. Anyway, all right. She was born in 1893 in England,
hmm
and she grew up in a pretty poor family. She was like a house cleaner or servant for a family, and I think like she worked with her parents basically, like they all worked in this house, and this was the family, the Knowles family. So she basically grew up in this house kind of as a servant, and as she grew up, they had a young son named John Knowles who was near her age. I think maybe a little bit older, and the two became pretty close. They were friends. And then they eventually, in like the early, I think, I want to say like 1912, something like that, right before she turns 20, they marry. And
Okay.
they are married for 43 years. And I have
Okay.
nothing to say. Like
Wow. Wow.
yeah, that's it. They were married happily for 43 years. They live in Windy Nook, which is in Gateshead, which is very far north from London, nowhere near
Okay.
London. At some point in these 43 years, she takes a lover, a man named John Russell. And he started out as a handyman. So her husband, John Knowles, was a chimney sweep, which I
Okay.
found weird because he came from a family with money, supposedly, but then he's
hmm
a chimney sweep. And I don't think chimney sweep was like a super like rich man's job. So
Definitely not. No.
yeah, so kind of a weird turn. But they had like a handyman who lived or who, helped with their home, and he eventually moved in with them. So she is living with her husband and her lover. And I don't know if the husband knew about the lover or
Okay.
what the situation was. I
Wow.
can't I can't imagine that that was just like they all lived together and like nobody knew what was happening. You
There's
know
a
what I
TLC.
mean?
There's like a TLC show about that.
Is there?
Yeah.
That's weird. Maybe it's based on this.
Mm.
Uh People live in this life. So I'm not really sure what the deal was, but
Okay.
she had a lover. He lived with them. I don't know for how long, but for some amount of years.
Okay.
Then after 43 years of marriage in 1955, John Knowles died. I think he was like in his late 60s. And she was also in her like mid 60s at this point. Wait, what's 1955? Let's do the math together, guys. Minus 1893. Yeah, she was 62. So she's in her early 60s. He was in his mid 60s. Now, nobody knows what exactly he he died from, doctors said it was just like a natural death. He was in his like mid to late 60s. It's, the 50s. So I think that wasn't totally out of the ordinary. And I think it was like heart related.
Okay.
So I've read two things. I've read that she married her lover, John Russell, and I've read that she didn't. Either way, within about 6 months, John Russell was dead.
Mm.
Yeah. So he died in late 1956. So I guess it was about a year after. The attending physician declared that John Russell had also died of natural causes. So she now has two men that she was living with for quite a while. And this is what I find really interesting. 43 years of marriage, of a happy marriage, not a problem in the world. And then
Yeah.
just suddenly he falls down dead, she remarries, and then her new husband falls down dead within like a year.
So okay, yeah. So what spurred this on? This like, I'm gonna be a Black
Exactly.
Widow, the Black
I have
Widow
no idea.
lifestyle.
I have no idea. In 1955 or 1956, between the two men, she inherited a whopping 42 pounds, which is like $1,000 now, something like
Okay.
that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like
It's not really a financial like
it's
thing.
not. It's not
No.
worth shit.
No.
But when you kind of see the pattern that starts to take over, you realize like she wasn't in it for the long game. She was just like,
Okay.
So in June 1957, like pretty shortly after her second John husband died, she marries another man, Oliver Leonard, who was 75 years old. And this man had a lot of money. He was a retired real estate agent and he did really well for himself and was retired. And I mean, he was 75, you'd hope he'd be
Yeah.
retired. So they get married. 12 days later, he also dies of heart problems / natural causes. And he leaves her a whopping 50 pounds. So she's got like
Okay.
another $1,000. It's like,
Oh
bro,
my
that's
God.
not very much
But
money.
he was rich. He didn't leave her anything. That sucks.
They were married for 12 days. That's the thing.
Right. I guess he maybe didn't even have time to change the will,
Yeah, I'm feeling, and that to me is why I think the money motive isn't necessarily true. I think maybe
Yeah.
once she like killed somebody, she like
She was
got
into
a
it.
taste for it and
Yeah.
became kind of a serial killer.
Yeah.
And the
She
money
just
was
liked it.
sort of secondary. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So very soon after Oliver here dies, she married her fourth husband, Ernest Wilson, who was 76. And within how long? Let's see. He died within that same year, within 1957.
Okay. So
So
it's not a long
no,
interval.
they married in June 1957 and he died like I think it was like again like weeks later.
Okay.
With this most recent death, he left his estate to her. He did have time, I guess.
Okay. She finally got a payout.
So
Yeah.
maybe she waited a little bit so that he could like finish the paperwork.
Yeah.
And she ends up with a bungalow, some life insurance, and 100 pounds.
Okay.
She did not even go to his funeral. Yeah.
She's not trying that hard anymore. She's like,
No. She didn't go to the church. She went to like the after party. I don't know what you
oh God, the wake.
Thank you.
Not called an after party. So bad.
I am really happy to say that I haven't been to a funeral in a while, so like I don't remember what those are called. But anyway, so she was at this wake. My God, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And she had leftover sandwiches. Oh no, that's not what it was. At her wedding to this guy, there were leftover sandwiches, and somebody said to her like, "Oh, what do you want to do with these?" And she's like, "Oh, I'll hold them till the funeral." Like jokingly. That's why she's the merry widow of Windy Nook, because she's like laughing about this. So she says to them jokingly, because so many of her husbands have died so quickly after marrying them, she's like, "Oh, I'll just hold on to these until the funeral in a few days." And she thinks she's being funny, but like that's but
she's giving like giggling granny vibes, right?
She is, yeah, very Nanny Doss. Yes, absolutely. She's like thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, so she's like, the topic of a lot of gossip around town, and people are kind of like, what the fuck? So police are they don't really look into this until when sorry, I have to burp because I've been drinking sparkling water. Um, when what's his name? Ernest. Sorry, there's so many of them. When Ernest, her last husband, died, she actually went to the undertaker and was like, "Yo, can you give me a discount because I bring you so much business?"
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
Buy
at the
three funerals, get one free.
yeah, exactly. I mean, she would have one at this point.
She's got a little
Um,
stamp card. She's like,
yeah,
okay, I got my free funeral.
but I mean, to be fair, it's 4 husbands in 2 years, or three
Yeah.
husbands and a lover, depending on what you read. So, but again, she jokes about the sandwiches at her wedding. Like, I'll save them to the funeral. She jokes, or I don't even know if she was joking, asking for a discount. She very well could have been serious, but like it was taken kind of jokingly. So he goes to the cops and he's like, listen, like, she is way too
Yeah.
happy about all of these dead bodies, dead husbands. And, this is a very morbid sense of humor. So the cops are finally like, you know what, we're going to look into this. And they exhume the bodies of Ernest and Oliver.
Mm.
And what they find in their bodies, even back then in like the 50s, they had the testing to do this. They found really high levels of phosphorus, which is what you would use to kill beetles, like cockroaches and things in your house. So it's basically like a bug poison. And so both of them had died of poisoning, right? Like phosphorus. Why would you have high levels of phosphorus?
Right.
So she was feeding it to them, putting it in their drinks. Like, who knows? We don't really know how she gave it to them.
She did it though. She got it in
She
there.
definitely did it. She definitely did it. They didn't exhume the two Johns remained in their graves because they had been dead long enough that they didn't think they'd be able to find anything, even if they did exhume them. But these other two guys had been dead like less than a year, both of them, because she was ripping through them so fast,
Yeah.
So they arrested her, and her defense said, oh, she had phosphorus in her medication. One of the husbands, they must have just taken it accidentally. It wasn't her fault, yada, yada, yada. Jury didn't buy it. And in 1957, she was convicted of both murders and she was sentenced to death.
Oh.
Uh-huh. She was the
Wow.
last woman in the United Kingdom to be actually sentenced to death
Oh
in
my
like the
God.
late 50s. Mm-hmm.
Was she actually executed too?
Well, we'll get there.
Okay.
After this, the police did, in fact, decide to exhume the two Johns, and they actually were able to find phosphorus. So I don't believe they ever charged her for those murders, but they did eventually confirm all of them were poisoned, which is, again, super weird to be married to somebody for 43 years and then just poison him with no financial gain, no history of abuse. There was just really no reason that we could see, So she appealed her death sentence, obviously, and her appeal was overturned and the death sentence was upheld.
Okay.
But because at this point, I think she was like pushing 70, the courts took mercy on her and overturned her death sentence and just made it a life sentence.
Wow.
So she was commuted to life in prison and was incarcerated at Holloway Prison in London. And she died at age 73, I believe, of actual natural causes. Very much unlike all of her husbands. So she was sentenced in 1958 and she died in 1962. So she wasn't even in prison for very long. But to be fair, she was caught pretty quickly after doing the crimes. So it was a pretty turnaround from when she started her murderous, crazy Black Widow spree.
Yeah.
And when she served her time. It's just very interesting to become a serial killer in your early 60s.
Yeah, and especially to have a normal happy marriage for so long and then just at the very a long ass time and then just be like, nope, I'm gonna be a Black Widow. Really late in the game. Jill Coit and some of these other ladies were doing it their whole ass life.
That was their whole thing. I really feel like growing up as a servant hardened women back then. It made them very callous in certain ways. So many of these stories are servant women murdering whole families or murdering all their husbands, and it's interesting. But it's also interesting. I mean, we can say she had a normal marriage, but I really don't know how long she had that side piece and how long he was living with them. So, but I mean, again, that's not the weirdest thing ever.
Right.
But yeah, it's very strange to kill both her husband and her lover. especially with so little financial gain. It seems like maybe
she just liked poisoning.
She did. She just liked to kill.
She was down. Yeah.
Very fucking weird.
Also, both Jill Coit, who I just talked about, both women today, both had the same birthday, June 11th, which just happened.
No way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and both, Geminis, of course.
3 days ago. Oh, that's so crazy. Yeah, June my 11th. Kid's a Gemini. I can tell you. That's There's a lot to that. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know that. Yeah, so June 11th, 1893 for this dickhead.
And 1943 for Jill.
Whoa, so 50 years apart exactly.
Mm-hmm.
What a trip.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Gemini energy. I mean, I can see it for a Black Widow because you got to have two personalities. Kind of disassociate.
Yeah.
Your different selves.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that's cool. I'm glad you looked that up. Yeah. Sometimes when they're like born before 1900, I'm like, I'm not going to give you the exact date. Nobody gives a fuck. Like nobody cares what their birthday is. But like that's interesting. Yeah, that is really interesting.
Serial killer astrology.
Yeah, very cool.
We should just do that list. We should just do the list is Geminis.
Oh my god. Well, I'm glad you said that because I don't have a list for next week. Do I?
Oh, we are off next week actually, so we have time.
Yeah, I forgot. I ain't telling nobody. It's gonna be a
extra
secret what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'll announce what we're gonna do next week when I release my solo.
Okay.
So that we can kind of plan for it. But what was the one I wanted to do that then you were like, no, we already thought of one. We'll do that. Whatever it was.
Whatever that was. Yeah. I don't know.
My memory is trash.
My brain's not working.
Yeah, it's mush. Also, guys, this will be coming out on Friday instead of Thursday. Sorry for the delay. But anyway, thanks you guys for listening. Once again, Diva's going to be on vacation next week doing big friend stuff.
Not real vacations, podcast vacation.
Yeah, not real vacation. She still has to work and do life. But like she has people in town and you hang out with those people at night. And that's when we record our podcast. Mm-hmm. So something's got to give. So I'm going to be rolling solo next week. I'll bring some good stuff. I'll do the best I can. Mm-hmm. And then the week after we'll be back in.
And you kill it on the solo episodes. Last time I listened to one of them, I was traveling and I was like running around in the airport listening to you. And I was like, oh, so good.
Really?
Yeah, you do great.
Thanks. That's fun. I think I feel a lot of pressure, so I have to do a good job. Whereas when we're just hanging out, like it's a little more fun, more casual.
Yeah.
But in any case, guys, you just felt the love between us. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. Please like, rate, review, share with all your friends and family. Let's traumatize as many people as we can. And until next week.
Hey.
Off our. Let's. Yeah.